At a rainy family gathering, my grandmother whispered, "She's sweet, but time will wear her down like it wears down all stones." I kissed her goodbye. 75 years later, it was my foundation that rebuilt the town when disaster struck, and the descendants of those who laughed now lived in homes paid for by the ghost of a girl they thought would erode in the rain. I never forgot the smell of rain in Pinehaven. It was always the same kind of storm, thick clouds hanging low over the hills, like they were crouching, waiting to fall. When it rained, it wasn't just water. It felt like judgment. That's the kind of place Pinehaven was. Small, humid, everyone knew your business. And if they didn't, they made it up. I was 11 the last time I saw my grandma. The gathering was for my cousin Trish. She was 19 and pregnant, and the family was pretending it was a celebration, instead of the train wreck everyone knew it was. It was raining so hard that day you couldn't see past the porch. My aunt had 20 people shoved into a house built for 6. It was loud, it stank like ham and cigarettes, and every adult in the room talked over each other. I was sitting in the hallway, knees pulled to my chest, listening to the buzz of the storm and my cousin Bethany crying behind the bathroom door. She always cried. Over boys, over her hair, over nothing. That's when Grandma shuffled over and crouched down beside me. She always smelled like cinnamon and fabric softener. She looked at me real slow, like she was thinking about something bigger than either of us. "She's sweet," she said, soft and low. "But time will wear her down like it wears down all stones." She didn't say it mean. That was the worst part. It wasn't meant as an insult. It was just truth in her mind. I didn't ask her what she meant. I just nodded, kissed her wrinkled cheek, and went back to staring at the rain. She died a few months later. They buried her in a graveyard behind a Baptist church on the edge of town. I cried. I was the only kid who did. I never fit in that town. My mother used to say I was too soft for it, but the truth is they didn't want to know me. I didn't scream, I didn't push, I didn't run wild. I didn't make boys laugh or girls jealous. I didn't drink at bonfires or sneak into old barns to hook up like the others did. I read. I watched. I worked. People mistook that quiet for weakness. I left Pinehaven at 17 with no goodbye party, no gas money, and no promises. Just a trash bag of clothes, a scholarship letter that barely covered books, and the leftover kindness of a school counselor who saw more in me than anyone else ever had. Cincinnati was mean at first. Cold. Fast. I worked nights at a grocery store and cleaned hotel bathrooms on weekends. My first winter there, I slept in my coat because I couldn't afford the heat. But I kept my head down, stayed focused. I went to community college, then transferred. Got a degree in civil engineering. It didn't come easy, but I never wanted easy. Easy breaks when the pressure comes. I wanted solid. I wanted something no one could take from me. While my old classmates from Pinehaven were having baby number 3 or getting divorced at 23, I was mapping out water systems and bridge reinforcements. I built things. Little things at first. Parking lots, culverts, sidewalks. Then came the firm. It started small. Just me and one other guy I met in school. But I had something he didn't. Memory. I remembered every time someone in that town smiled while saying something cruel. I remembered every sideways glance. I remembered Grandma's voice. So when the business grew, and it did, fast, I kept pushing. I invested smart. Bought land. Worked in cities nobody cared about. Rebuilt from the inside. All while keeping one eye on Pinehaven. Took 30 years. I didn't go back. I read the local paper online. Watched real estate prices drop. I knew that town like the back of my hand. I knew the weak spots in their roads. I knew the power grid was held together by duct tape and prayers. They had no budget. No plan. No vision. And then came the flood. It rained for 6 straight days. The river cracked wide open. I watched drone footage of the high school roof collapsing into the cafeteria. I saw people stranded on porches. Dead dogs floating in water that reached the stop signs. FEMA came late. Insurance companies bailed. And I made my move. I didn't put my name on anything. That would have made it about me. This wasn't for applause. This was war, quiet and patient. I used a nonprofit I'd formed years earlier. I funneled the money through them. Sent in engineers. Hired locals at first, then brought in experts when I had to. Every house we rebuilt was better than anything they'd ever known. I made sure of it. ADA compliant. Flood resistant. Solar powered. All of it. The new elementary school has my firm's blueprint stamped on every beam, hidden behind drywall. There's a playground with soft turf where the old parking lot used to flood. There's a memorial stone out front, engraved with a quote from a local hero. They picked one of Grandma's old hymns. She'd like that. I walk through the town sometimes now. I wear a wide-brimmed hat and sunglasses. No one recognizes me. I look like any other rich old lady checking on her foundation's progress. And I watch their faces. The way they sigh in relief when the roof holds during a storm. The way their kids laugh on streets I rebuilt. Sometimes I see Bethany. She works at the new pharmacy. She walks with a limp now. Her husband died in the flood. She doesn't know me. Or maybe she does, and just can't believe it. That girl? That quiet little thing from the hallway? Yeah, that was me. 3 months after the rebuild finished, I got a letter. It was handwritten, shaky script, mailed to my company's general P.O. box, one almost no one had access to. The envelope smelled faintly of tobacco and lemon soap. There was no return address, but I didn't need one. I knew the handwriting. It was from Lorraine, my mother. I hadn't spoken to her in 35 years. She wrote like someone who hadn't said much out loud in a long time. The letter was short, just 3 paragraphs. But the last one burned itself into me. They think the money came from angels. They don't know what you built or what it cost you. I do. I heard your name in the diner last week, whispered behind hands. Someone found a permit with your signature on it. It's spreading. You need to come back. Or don't. Just know they're not grateful. They're waiting for a reason to take it all again. It hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I hadn't planned on revealing myself, not ever. But now I had to reconsider. The town was changing fast. The rebuild had brought jobs, business. People were moving in from outside the valley. That scared the old-timers. You could feel it when you walked into the church foyer or stood in line at the new post office. They were grateful when the walls went up. Now they were suspicious. A month later, I started getting calls at the office. Nasty ones. No caller ID. Men's voices. Country accents like ghosts from my childhood. You don't belong here. We know who you are, sweetheart. Don't think we forgot. I had a choice to make. I could pull funding, let Pinehaven rot like it nearly did before. Let them drown in their pride. Or I could finish what I started. Make it so permanent that not even their hate could tear it down. I chose war. I bought the land under the gas station. Then the hardware store. Then the church. Quietly, through different shell companies, I bought over 1/3 of the town's land. Commercial and residential. Nobody saw the pattern. Until someone did. His name was Travis McNeely. His grandpa used to own the feed store where my uncle slapped me across the face in front of the whole town when I was 12. Travis was younger than me by 20 years, but just as bitter. He'd moved away, then come back when the town started recovering. He wanted to be a big fish again. He started showing up at town council meetings, stirring people up, whispering my name like a curse. That girl, he'd say. That girl they all forgot. She's the one pulling the strings. He wasn't wrong. But he didn't know what I was really doing. See, the next storm wasn't rain. It was truth. I leaked the original FEMA reports. The ones that showed how corrupt the old council had been. They'd diverted emergency funds. Lied about infrastructure needs. Ignored safety warnings for years. And they'd signed those reports. With their names. 2 of them were cousins of the same people now clinging to their right to the town. Within a week, 3 resignations hit the news. People started talking. And for the first time in a long time they started listening too. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because then someone vandalized the new school. Spray painted across the front doors in dripping red. We don't OWHIT. And I knew what that meant. They remembered me now. They remembered the girl in the hallway. They didn't like what she'd become. After the school was hit, I expected the town to rally. They didn't. Some were outraged, sure. But others, they shrugged. Said it was just paint. Said it wasn't that serious. The sheriff, an old friend of Travis McNeely's, said they'd look into it. But nothing happened. That told me everything. They knew who did it. Or at least, they didn't want to know. And that meant lines had been drawn. So I drew mine. I'd already bought their land. I owned the leases for half the shops on Main Street. The other half owed me grants or construction contracts. I didn't want to hold it over them. But if they wanted to pick this fight, I was ready. I raised rents. Not by a lot, just enough to make them notice. Enough to remind them that their new life came with a price tag. And it wasn't taxes or handouts. It was me. And then I saw it. A letter posted on the bulletin board outside the church. It was anonymous. Hand-typed. Taped in the middle like it belonged there. You can dress a ghost in gold, but it's still dead. She's not rebuilding. She's burying us under debt. Remember what happens when outsiders buy the land you walk on. You lose your feet. I stood in front of it for almost 10 minutes. No one would meet my eyes. Then someone came for my mother. It was subtle. Just a broken window. A rock through the front of her little shotgun house near the edge of town. The rock had a note taped to it. You raised a snake. She didn't call me. She called the local handyman to fix the glass. And he told someone. Who told someone else. And by the time I heard about it, the story had already grown teeth. They warned her. She knew what her daughter was doing. She's just as guilty. That broke something in me. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. I met with a lawyer that night. A quiet one used to backdoor deals and silent exits. I want you to draw up the papers, I told him. If anything happens to me, anything at all, I want it all transferred. To who? My mother. He stared at me. You sure? I nodded. And put a clause in it. The land can't be sold for 20 years. Not to a corporation. Not to a private entity. Only to residents. And at a capped rate. He whistled low. You're making sure they don't burn it down just to spite you. I'm making sure they don't take credit when it survives. But that wasn't the twist. Not yet. That came 3 weeks later, when I got a voicemail. From Bethany. Hey, it's me. I know it's been a long time. I wasn't gonna say anything, but you need to come talk to Travis. He's planning something. Something big. I think it's gonna get someone hurt. I don't know what side I'm on anymore. But I think you should know. That voicemail ended with a sound. A door slamming. And then silence. I haven't been able to reach her since. And the next storm is already on the radar. I drove into Pinehaven the next day.
No disguise. No tinted windows.
Just me in a gray coat behind the wheel of the same Jeep I'd driven for 10 years. I took the long way in, past the church, past the school, past the sign that still said, Welcome to historic Pinehaven. Even though there wasn't a damn thing left from the history they clung to. I drove past the house where I grew up. It looked the same. Only smaller. Duller. Like it had deflated when I left and never filled back up. Then I parked on Main Street. People stopped walking. They stared. I walked into the town hall with my head high, coat dripping from the rain. It was empty except for the clerk behind the glass, who looked like she wanted to be anywhere but there. I need to see Travis, I said. She blinked. He's not, call him. She didn't move for a second. Then she reached for the phone. 15 minutes later he walked in. He looked older than he did in the paper, wider, harder. His jaw was tight. He wore the kind of camo people in towns like this wore to look like they belonged. He didn't smile. Well, he said, look who washed back up. I didn't sit. You're planning something. He laughed once. Sharp. You think you can throw money at a place like this and not expect some pushback? I gave this town life again. He stepped closer. You gave it a leash. I let that sit. You think they hate me? Maybe. But they'll hate you more when they realize what you took from them. He tilted his head. They already hate you. They just don't say it to your face. He walked past me, opened the door and said something I'll never forget. You should have eroded. Now you're just in the way. That night the storm came. A real one. Flash floods. Sirens. Power outages. And during the chaos, someone set fire to the community center. The one I built. It burned fast. Too fast. Arson, no doubt. Took out half a block. The fire trucks came late. The town watched. They didn't cry. They watched it like it was justice. But then the wind shifted. And the fire jumped. It hit the old mill where Travis and his council were storing supplies. His backup plan. It went up like kindling. Took his operation with it. And with it his people's trust. 2 days later, Travis was arrested. Turns out Bethany left him a voicemail too, one that got leaked. She'd been working both sides. She sent me one warning and sent the sheriff another. The message made the rounds. She disappeared after that. Vanished. Some say she left the state. Some say she's buried in the woods. I honestly don't know. The rebuilding stopped. I didn't leave. Not yet. I stayed long enough to make sure the transfers went through. The land is still mine for now. But not for long. It's going to my mother. And when she dies, it goes to the town. But not the ones who set fires. Not the ones who threw rocks. To the kids. The ones who didn't ask for any of this. The ones who think Pine Haven is still worth saving. I walk the rebuilt streets sometimes. No one talks to me. Not anymore. But they look. They remember. And every time it rains, I see it in their eyes. They're waiting for me to break. But I won't. Because Grandma was right. Time does wear down stone. But sometimes it reveals the diamond underneath.